Redditor reports AMD Ryzen 7 9800X 3D burned while watching TV series. An update about the RTX 1590 melting issue and the new recommended cable for this particular problem. GeForce RTX 5070 launch may delay. And lastly, AMD is working on RX 9070 XT with 32 gigs of memory. Okay, so firstly we have a Redditor at r/PC Master Race. We have Topley. This particular user has witnessed this terrible incident, which is the 9800X 3D and a Nova X 8070E motherboard has, well, as you can see, damaged. It burned out. So clearly this is a terrible situation right here. So the op says that while watching some series today, my PC just turned off. Didn't take me long enough to find the culprit. So that's the culprit, which is the burned 9800X 3D and also the motherboard too. So it's kind of is a terrible situation right over here. Of course, he says, man, this sucks. So he's going through some serious issue here, obviously, because, you know, 9800X 3D and a Nova X 870E motherboards are expensive, you know. So yeah, it's just burning, and the build was only like a couple of months old. So yeah, it sucks. But there is one thing that we need to look into. Radeon RX, which is basically, well, we all know Gamers Nexus, replied with, "Hi there, can we buy these parts from you at full retail to inspect? I'll message you also with more detail." So obviously that's good news for this particular user here, that Gamers Nexus will be paying full retail price to inspect. So I guess we will be seeing a video coming soon from Gamers Nexus, so stay tuned there. And next up, we have many updates about the RTX 5090 cable being melted, and well, we have some information coming from Falcon Northwest, and he replies with this particular information. Huge respect for DeBauer's testing, but we're not seeing anything like his setup's result, which basically was DeBauer was looking at 20 amperes current flowing through one of these cables, which is very odd. It shouldn't be like that. It should be around, on average, 7.8 to 8 amperes, but 20 amperes going through one particular cable is gonna cause you that melting issue that we've seen from his particular video. But now we're seeing this particular information here, that we tested many 5090 founders builds with multiple PSUs and cable types undergoing days of closed chassis burn in. Temperatures, images in Fahrenheit, and amperages on all 12 wires are nominal. So if you look into this particular information here, as you can see, the temperature right over here is like around 99, 94, 103 Fahrenheit, and in the hotspot we're looking at 150, 156, on average like 156, I would say. That's the hotspot temperature we're looking at here, which is like the nominal temperature. That should be the case, which is completely normal. And also, as you can see, the ampere data, we are looking at 7.9 amperes, which is also very much normal. That should be the average going through one of these cables, so that is completely normal. Also, more images, as you can see, the similar case over here, 156 hotspot temperature, and then in the power supply cable side it is a bit lower, 100 or 97, 98. That is completely normal. And into the power supply case, we're looking at similar situation here. This is like the maximum, we're looking at 126.7, average 126.2, and minimum is 125. So again, nominal temperature we're looking at from this particular tester here, so that's completely normal. Andrew Schilling has also tested their side of the story for the RTX 5090, and it's, as he says, did a reseat of the cable on both sides, PSU and card, with the GeForce RTX 5090 FE, now with a perfect fine distribution over all 6 cables / pins. So we're looking at, as you can see, pin 1 to pin 6, 8.1, 7.7, 7.4, 7.6, 7.2, 7.8 amperes. So this is completely normal, right? Because DeBauer have seen one particular cable, one string, going up to 20 amperes. That was the culprit of melting that cable, melting that cable. So yeah, it's pretty odd. And obviously this particular video was on the Reddit, and one particular user has also reported is that the 5090 has melted their GPU. As you can see, it's completely melted. Let's zoom into it, shall we? Look at that. It is completely gone. Like, yeah, this is bad. This is absolutely bad. So melting, it should persist. It's not gonna go away. It is still there. And the reason for that is this particular chart coming from actually hardcore overclocking, and I recommend watching this particular video. The link will be in the description. You should watch it. It explains very distinctively about why this melting issue is persisting still now. And one particular explanation was that, as you can see, in the when it was classical 8 pins we were utilizing, there were 3 shunt resistors that was being utilized. But now when you look into the RTX 4090 12V HPWR, or even the RTX 5090 newer 12VX2 2x6 pins, they also had 2 shunt resistors. But now into the newer case, we have only 1 shunt resistors in the PCB end. So basically, as you can see, all 6 of these cables are going through only 1 shunt resistor. So the newer RTX 5090 FE 12V 2x6 pin, even if you use that, it would still be going through only 1 particular shunt resistor, which is a bit problematic, because if you don't know what shunt resistor does, it basically reduces the excessive current flow. So in this case, there were 3 shunt resistors for the 3x8 pins, which was very safe. Even for the RTX 3090 Ti and 3090 and 3080 Ti, those were also utilizing 3 shunt resistors. 5090 or even 4090, they are going through only like 2 or 1 shunt resistors, which is not good at all. This is bad. So is it like an engineering problem here? I don't know. I mean, this is problematic very much. And according to Mod DIY, we have this particular information, this particular article, as you can see. Can I use the existing 12V HPWR cable with the RTX 50 GPU? So basically, they recommend upgrade to the latest 12V 2x6 cables for RTX 50 series of GPUs. And basically, Mod DIY has also introduced their new 12V 2x6 cables. So yeah, if you're interested, you can check it out. But yeah, they're recommending 12V 2x6 cables, even though this particular chart has been explained already. And as you can see, even if you use 12V 2x6 cables, the PCB end is the problematic or the culprit here, because they're utilizing only 1 shunt resistors for 6 cables. So it's not good. Definitely not good. So we'll see what happens. And next I have some small updates about the RTX 5070, and according to Zad Wang, RTX 5070 will be delayed. Instead of February, which should have been February 20 or later February, it will be on the shelf of early March. And if you don't know, in March we will be seeing 9070 XT being released. So I guess the timing matches pretty well. I feel like Nvidia is a little bit cautious about this particular launch here, because obviously we know this time around RTX 5070 Ti will be competing against the 9070 XT. That is pretty much evident here. And now I guess Nvidia is also gonna wait to see what AMD is preparing for their launch, and also the pricing, because that's gonna be a big factor. If somehow AMD can deliver serious performance even in restoration and in ray tracing performance, then Nvidia will be in big trouble. So they have to adjust the pricing, right? So they're thinking about launching it in early March, which is the exact same time of the 9070 XT, because we have more information about that. And next up in Triple Forum, we have something interesting here. According to this particular user, I can't really spell that, Shang Zhong Kao. Anyways, whatever that name is, correct me if I'm wrong. In the planning of a more explicit version, the capacity is unclear and still under discussion, but it should also be 32 gigs if it is come out and the time is within the year. So 9070 XT, this is basically about the 9070 XT what we're talking about, might come with 32 gigs of VRAM later down the line. So the original decision is to have 9070 XT with 16 gigs of VRAM. That is pretty much confirmed. But now they're considering a 32 gigs version, which is very confusing, because like 9070 XT utilizing 32 gigs, it might seem too much, like it doesn't really make sense. So why are they going for 32 gigs? Because we already know 5090 comes with 32 gigs of VRAM. So 9070 XT doesn't compete with 5090, definitely not. So yeah, they're introducing 32 gigs of VRAM. So yeah, it's a bit confusing, but I guess if they're trying to bring 32 gigs of VRAM for the 9070 XT, that would mean it would be utilizing that amount of VRAM only in such cases where you are either working on 3D or working on some sort of workstation. And if they're actually targeting that, they might bring in some good encoders, and that is good news, clearly, because 32 gigs is overkill for gaming, clearly, but for 3D and work stuff, that should be good. So we'll see. Anyways, what do you think about the RTX 5090 cable issue? And if you own one, you should be aware of this situation, because your 5090 might also melt. And so the best way to deal with it right now is to utilize the 12V 2x6 pins, so that should be the way to go. Other than that, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.